of the Winning Small podcast. I'm your host, Brian Holyfield, and I was talking to a good friend of mine. I'm going to introduce him in just a second. And we were talking about how health and wealth are oftentimes very similar in terms of the struggles that we're facing in terms of these broader conversations that we have in society, but even on a more micro level when it comes down to our own personal lives and relationships. And so I thought, man, it would be a great crossover episode to not just talk about health and wellness, but also talk about financial health and financial wellness, because I think that in many ways the problem is the same. And the question is, are you patient?
Oh,
Are you patient when it comes to building wealth and building health? And so I want to introduce a good buddy of mine. He's an awesome guy, athlete, friend, and amazing financial advisor. So Reid, say hello and give us a brief introduction of yourself and kind of your background.
my name is Reid. I'm actually originally from Missouri. I came to Georgia via Adventures in Missions. I did the road race. And so my background is a little bit of a mix of Midwest upbringing. I'm actually a civil engineer by training. Went to college for that, worked for that right out of school. And one of the key moments in my life was 3 months out of college and working at a small family-owned firm in Kansas City. I knew I was going to be stuck to a chair 50 hours a week at a desk, doing good work, but not really helping anybody or changing the world at all. And that was 3 months into my career. And so I just saw this long future of meetings and 8 to 5s and PTO and all this kind of stuff. And that just wasn't what I wanted. And so through about a year of doing research, I found the World Race, which is a 11-month missions program run out of a ministry based in Gainesville. I left for that in July of 2014, got back to the United States in May, June of 2015, went back overseas for most of 2016, and then finally I moved here for good in the summer of 2016. And my wife did the same program at a different time. We met the summer of 2016, and we have just been settling down in Gainesville ever since. Changed jobs, bought a house. We have 2 kids, a dog. It's kind of like called Gainesville home. And 4 years ago, right when COVID kicked off, we were already thinking about me making a career change, something that offered more income potential, but still had impact.
Mm-hmm.
That's big for us. How to impact people and the world, obviously coming from a missions background. And financial advising may not seem like an obvious choice for the impact. It feels a little dry, right? But it's not. You and I have talked about this a lot. There is a lot of bad advice out there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people trying to seek free advice, and you get what you pay for. There are a lot of people trying to do it themselves, and sometimes that works, but a lot of the time, most of the time, people need accountability, they need support, they need ideas, options. So 4 years ago, I was presented with the opportunity to start a practice in Gainesville, and I took it. And that was 4 years ago, and it's been incredible. And it's put me in a lot of places and a lot of living rooms and coffee shops and offices and just in people's space to give them some insight. And again, it's impact. It's impacting their lives to help them use money as a tool. That's kind of one of our phrases is we want to use money as a tool. It's not the goal. The goal isn't to have the most.
Yeah.
The goal is to use it for the purposes that the Lord has laid out for you. It's to use it to live the life that you're meant to live, to impact your family, your community, and the world. And money is something that we all deal with on a daily basis, big and small. And it's just been a privilege to be in this seat.
Dude, yeah. It's been cool to experience and watch and see your journey. Very corollary to mine in terms of, I guess it was about a year after you that I made this career switch.
Yep.
So I definitely relate to, being in your 30s and basically starting over again.
Yeah.
And so it's cool to have that camaraderie in that and to see what God's done in you and in your family and how he's grown your experience and expertise in your field. So as we kind of revert to the topic for today's episode, what is your take on, fast money, fast wealth, and why do you really have a different approach in terms of this issue that we discussed, that we brought up in the opening statement of
Yeah.
patience, and why is that important?
One of the phrases that we talk with clients through quite a bit: money is slowly gained but quickly lost. So money is slowly gained but quickly lost. I had a meeting maybe 2 weeks ago with an individual who this literally got rich on crypto, right? He did it. He is the 1% of the 1% of the 1% that actually did it.
Yeah.
For most people out there, wealth takes a long time to have, create, build, kind of whatever phrase you want. Whether it is going from a low paying job to a well paying job to an excellent paying job, usually that takes time, or saving. And especially, I know we have a lot of people that we talk to that are trying to buy a house. And in our area, that's not easy. Down payments have to be larger than they've ever been
Yeah.
before. And that just takes time. There are definitely ways to fast forward wealth creation. That's kind of what our work is all about, right? How do you stop cutting yourself off at the knees? A lot of people are their worst enemy. And I know you see that a lot in health as well. They say one thing, but they do another. And that obviously means more, it's going to take more time to get the goal that you want. So our job is helping them avoid that, helping them avoid those common traps, those obstacles that they put in. Like, the world is already throwing enough obstacles in their way. You don't need
Mm-hmm.
to toss your own on top of that. But it's hard when people want something, and I think you see this a lot. And again, we talk about this a lot, the similarities and the parallels in our jobs. They look at what somebody else has. For me, it's usually either assets, whether
Mm-hmm.
that is a retirement account balance, rental properties, a business, whatever else. And that's not necessarily bad, right? Like, something that we focus on a lot is not looking to consume more, but to create. So it's not
Yeah.
saying having is bad, right? What we have is what we can use to change the world. But they look at what other people have, assets. Where for you, I'm sure it's health, it's body type, it's marathon PR, it's what they can squat, it's what clothes they can fit in. They look at that and they say, I need that now. What they don't
Yeah.
see is that person that has that started 5 years ago, or they started 10 years ago. We missed that bit because we don't know. We just see what's in front of us today, and we say, well, that's what they have today. How can I get that tomorrow? And that doesn't happen.
Yeah. No, that's really, I think, insightful, because if the issue is a lack of patience and the problem is wanting it now, think about
Yeah,
the Willy Wonka, I
yeah,
want it now song.
yep,
Um, so it seems like you're saying the solution, and I love that idea of creating, not consuming.
yep,
So if the solution is to create, not consume, how do you get somebody to understand or see, or how do you illuminate that paradigm shift
yep,
from a consumption based approach? Because I think the reality is that people who are in and I've been, I speak from, and you know this very well,
yeah,
we've had tons of financial struggles in our past, and,
yeah,
low paying jobs, and working at private Christian schools with no benefits and just
yeah,
scraping by, or not even scraping by.
yeah, yeah,
Um, so, I speak from a place of, experiencing this and living through it. Um, but lower income, or, struggling income families
yep,
spend all their money, right?
yep,
So you do get into this pattern of consumption for, that's all you know.
yep.
And I've found the shift from consumption to creation is really difficult to get your head wrapped around. So what would you suggest? What are the first things that somebody can do to start to make and find that, first off, mental shift, but then also
Yeah.
following it up with their actions?
One thing we have people do if they're comfortable is go ask the people who have what they have how they got it.
Hmm.
Because again, a lot of it is just a lack of knowledge about the process. So a good example, I deal with a lot of people who have 10 times the money that I have, or even more. I know that I'm not going to achieve what they have achieved overnight or in 1 year. I have the privilege of learning their stories and knowing
Hmm.
that they started building this business that they have 30 years ago, or they bought their first rental property 15 years ago and they bought one every 3 years like clockwork. So I think we encourage clients who have a specific goal in mind. If they know, hey, we really want to get into real estate or we really want to own our own business, the first thing is go ask somebody who's done it what that was like, because they're going to tell you it takes patience and endurance and grit, and it's going to take longer than you think. That's helpful to just raise awareness about the process. Then it goes to, now you know what it looks like to create, right? That kind of creates a framework for creating. All right, I know that instead to get that portfolio, that business, that income level, I now know the process to create that isn't 2 months, it's 2 years, or it's not 2 years, it's 10 years. I have more knowledge and more awareness of the process. But now it's motivating them to buy into that process, right? And that's kind of what we talked about. It's not just knowing, it's action.
Right.
And that's where it gets back. This is not a fun topic for most people. Budgeting is assigning money to priorities. So let me just say, and we don't really go through line item by line item. It's big picture stuff, but it is saying, what do you care most? Do you actually care about buying your first rental property, starting that business? I mean, it's what you did, right? It's saying, like, do you want to be stuck in this job forever? Or how badly do you want to go change people's lives through personal training? And you clearly wanted it bad enough to now you're very successful at it. That took risk, it took guts, but it also took discipline to put yourself in a position financially to be able to do that and to see the results happen. So for a lot of families or even individuals who see something that they want, we have to clarify what the process is, and it's usually longer than they think. And then we have to connect that back to some emotion. Logic doesn't do it. It's emotion. It's what do you want? What do you feel? What drives you?
Yeah.
If we connect it back to emotion, then they will make the hard choices. Short-term pain, long-term gain. And there's a lot of techniques that we do to get that, but that's the general idea. How do we connect their emotions to that goal?
Yeah. I think of it like this, and just to kind of give a framework for that. But things won't change until you get desperate.
Yeah.
But things won't stick until you get passionate.
Yeah. Yep.
And so if we can kind of find that sweet middle ground of, I'm desperate to change my situation. But at the same time, I'm also passionate about the application of what this brighter future looks like. Right. Yep. So if I'm dealing with somebody who's, struggling in terms of their health, or they really want change, the reality is a lot of times I have conversations with people who they just aren't desperate enough.
Yep.
Right. And it's not a sense of like, I'm preying on the desperate, but it's internally, they don't actually really have a mental picture. And sometimes people have a off mental picture, and just in terms of they're over exaggerating how much change they need. And so sometimes it's like, hey, you're not in that bad of shape.
Yeah. Right.
I remember one of our early conversations about finances. You're like, okay, cool. You're not in great shape, but you're not in as bad of shape as you think, right? And so I was like, oh, that's nice to hear.
That feels good.
So, yeah, that feels good.
Yeah.
But sometimes people just don't see the reality of their own lived experience, because maybe it's all they've known. Right. Maybe it's just the environment they were raised in. And this applies to finances and health, I think both equally.
Yep.
But until they really see their situation in its true light, it's difficult to get desperate. But once they do, all of a sudden, and I see this, and I know you see this, where somebody's like the light switch moment where they just go, crap, this isn't working.
Correct.
And I think that's when a lot of people make these huge swings in terms of 0 to 100 miles an hour. They just, I'm not getting in momentum at all. I need to just floor it, pedal to the metal, and I need to just, take off.
Yeah.
So what's the risk of somebody in that situation in terms of health? Somebody's going to do a crash diet. They're going to do, 75 hard, or some of these programs that are out there that are too extreme when somebody's just starting out. So what are the risks that you see for somebody in that same position, but in terms of their finances?
I think of a parallel. Somebody does 75 hard for you, but they end up injuring their body because they go too fast too soon. I think parallel for us would be debt.
Hmm.
Somebody says, you know what, I'm done. I'm done with a 9 to 5. I'm going to go start my own business, whatever that is. If they don't have good financial foundations, if they aren't set up well, either financially or mindset, but really both together, they will dig a hole that they can't get out of, a hole that's deeper than the
Hmm.
one they are already in. A lot of times that is debt. It either starts with debt. A good example would be a business loan or a mortgage for a
Hmm.
primary or a rental property, or you start a business without the ability to pay your bills. To pay your bills, you utilize debt, and then it's a downward cycle.
Yeah.
They aren't prepared for the long haul. They're prepared for a sprint. And if at the end of that sprint, success isn't waiting for them, something else is. And that's usually a downward spiral into high interest debt, which then bleeds into other areas. Something that I love about my job is money is emotional.
Hmm.
So if you're in a downward spiral, consumed by debt that is only growing month to month, not only financially, kind of numerically, can you not dig yourself out? That's probably not going to lead to great conversations with a spouse or partner.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to lead to you getting out of bed and tackling the day. There's a lot of repercussions from that, which again, the same thing for you. Like once you do this program that is too much too soon and you injure yourself, well, now you're one step forward, three steps back. And then getting
Yeah.
started again is hard. So that's where it is patience. And I think something that, not to toot your horn or my horn, but that is a role that I think you and I love playing is helping people who know one path. Like this is all they know, right? Either exercise, all I know is going to the gym and killing myself. And if I feel sore, then I know that I did a good workout, right? Or to me, it's all I know is spin, spin, spin. Taking a just taking a second to say, here are the other options. Like here are the other ways to treat
Hmm.
your health and your wealth. What if instead your life looked like this? What if instead your connection to money or your body or your health looked like this? Getting outside, unbiased, third party advice is
Hmm.
time tested and it's proven. You get out of your head, you get out of your nature and your nurture, and you say, hey, if you were me, what would you do? And that's something that you and I both doing is giving them other options so that they don't go too fast too soon.
Yeah. So if we're trying to build a pathway to get out of consumption, to get into creation. So it
Yeah.
sounds like first one is learning the discipline of budgeting, which
Well, sort of.
is
Yeah.
is
Yep.
not super popular.
No.
And then it's seeking wise counsel,
Yep.
right? And the
Yep.
primary purpose for that is getting out of your emotions, right?
Yep.
Getting the emotional. Everybody knows that it's easy to watch a poker tournament on TV and be like,
Yep.
"You idiot! You should have whatever," but you
Right.
have all the information and you have none of the emotion,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
And so sometimes we're in a position where we don't know what we don't know,
Yep.
and we're highly emotional about that position that we're in.
Yep.
And it takes somebody like you or somebody like me to step in and say, hey, let's cut through the crap here and let's recognize the reality of the situation that you're in, as well as I'm not emotionally attached to this situation like you are,
Right.
and it gives me a little bit more clarity and a little bit more insight. So
Yep.
we've got kind of two steps then. Is there anything you would add in terms of what's the next thing that somebody needs to do to get into that state of creation, or the mental or the physical action of starting to create versus just consuming?
Okay. So give me the two steps again.
Yeah, so we've got the discipline of budgeting and then
Yep.
getting out of your emotions.
Just a quick word on budgeting. It is typically budgeting, and this is true for families who are on the lower end of the income spectrum and families who are off the high end of the spectrum, because we deal with people of all income types. Budgeting is hard. Budgeting is not natural. Nobody really enjoys it. I have some people who do, but they are on the, type A control freak to the max. So this is not a thing where when you hear budgeting, typically people who you talk about budgeting assume lower income people need it, right? Or middle class people need it. But like if I make blank amount of money, whatever is in their head, I don't need budgeting, and that's just wrong. Budgeting is the definition of wealth. Wealth is I spend less than I make. That is how you create wealth. That's how anybody in the history of the world has created wealth. They've spent less than they make. It's easier to do that if you make more money, but it's really hard to do that in today's culture. We were bombarded with advertising saying, spend what you make.
Mm-hmm.
That is it. So when you think about budgeting, and this kind of goes, one of your most impactful slides that you have ever shown that I saw at one of our networking meetings was the process of eating healthy. Do you remember that slide?
Yeah. The better, not perfect.
Yes. And I think about that with budgeting. It doesn't need to be perfect. I don't need to know where every cent goes. And there's a lot of apps that we don't need to name that are literally named that. I don't care about every single dollar.
Mm-hmm.
I care about the big picture. I care about not blowing $200 at dinner, or not spending $600 a month on DoorDash, or not getting into a $900 a month car payment. I care, and we care about those things. And I hope you that's what I want you to care about with that discipline. Don't be disciplined with every cent. Be disciplined with tens of hundreds into thousands. That's how you will spend less than you make. So be disciplined on the big stuff, on the chunky pieces. And then as you do that, you can refine it over time. But you talk about patience. I think even budgeting is a patient process. You can go download a Google Sheet template of a budget and start to put in all your expenses, and you will crash and burn in 2 weeks. As opposed to taking a step back and saying, what are the problem areas for me? And I think this is in a parallel to you too, right? Like I know that you do an exceptional job helping clients track their food and their nutrition. If that's too much, just look at what's the low-hanging fruit that I can cut out or that I can change for my diet. And for us, it's the same thing. What's the low-hanging fruit where like I have a good example. We have a client, and within 5 minutes, it was golf and clothes. He just knew it. I overspend on those 2 areas.
Yeah.
Most people eating out is on the list. So that's just, I like to focus on that with families when we talk about budgeting. 2 things myths that we hear that I want to break. Budgeting is not just for people who don't make enough money. We help families who make $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 a year with their budgeting, because it's the same idea. Spend less than you make. And better, not perfect. Don't download a spreadsheet and put in everything you spend every single month, because you will not. Look at the low-hanging fruit. Start big and chunky, big buckets, and then work your way down from there. So I think after we have discipline, I'm sorry, and I forgot the second step because I was so consumed by budgeting. What was the second one? I'm terrible.
Yeah, the second one was, and this is a good summary as well. So the second one is to get out of your emotions, in particular, by having an outside voice, outside opinion that's giving you more perspective. I think.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
No, go.
So just to piggyback off of what you just said, and before we get to the third thing that you're coming up with that, I see the brain rolling here. I use the term aligned eating.
Yep.
Which I'll take credit for, because I don't know anybody that's used that before. I'm sure somebody has, but
I'll give it to you.
Right. But I think you're talking about aligned spending.
Yes.
Right. It's not about where does every dollar and every cent go. It's not about where does every calorie come from. But in this moment, in this day, in this week, in this month, is my action aligned with the goals that I've set? Is the action aligned with the current phase that I'm in?
Yeah.
Right. So we have to think about it in terms of, this is not my forever, but this is my moment.
Yep.
And is this moment aligned with the bigger picture? If it's not, then I need to reevaluate why I'm acting out of alignment. So
Yep.
I think you're really big about sharing about, look, just because you're struggling financially doesn't mean you don't give. It doesn't mean you
Right.
don't tithe to your church. It doesn't mean you don't give to charities. It doesn't mean you don't give of your resources to causes that you are believe in. Those are not the things that you cut,
Yes.
right? In the same
Correct.
way, nutrition. People are like, oh, I've got to cut out everything that I love, and I've got to
Yeah.
cut out
Yeah.
celebrations, and I can't have birthdays, and I can't do anniversaries, right?
Right.
I can't do these things because, but those are the outliers. There's
Yep.
big gaping sort of nonsensical decisions that we're all making that don't align with our big picture goals, and so we want to eliminate some of these outliers. But then there's like the log in our own eye, so to speak, right? In
Yep.
terms of some glaring thing that we're not noticing,
Yep.
or that we just kind of look over.
Yep.
Does that resonate with you in terms of that?
Oh, absolutely. It's people see they in a way they see too much. I am spending a lot of time last few weeks. I read a book that has changed my life, my approach in ways that few books have.
Hmm.
And the whole book is about distraction and focus. So a phrase that we might also talk through at the end of this is, so wealth takes time. Wealth also takes concentration.
Hmm.
Concentration is a double meaning. I don't want to get sidetracked from the two because I have the third step here, but concentration is also, in this context, can mean two things, and we'll talk about both of them, but relates to you is focus. Instead of looking at all of your money and all the possible investment options and all the things that I could do with it and all that other people have done with it, and I think the corollary for you would be looking at all the health, and I got to cut out all my food, and I could change all of my sleep habits, and when I wake up, and my whole it's no, like, focus on winning small. Focus
Mm-hmm.
on that low hanging fruit where that eating out is a problem for your family. So what if we cut it back to twice a week? Which for some
Mm-hmm.
people feels like a lot, but for some people that's not nearly as much. What if for you winning small is golfing once a month instead of once a week? What if it is changing how you go on vacation? Just do that. Win
Yeah.
small in those areas, focus on those areas, understand what phase you're in, which I think is another good thing that you and I could talk about, kind of phases of health and phases of wealth, because that is something that people also get lost in. They get lost in wanting to be in all the phases and all times, or being in another
Yeah.
phase they can't be in. That's probably a good point for us to circle back on. But focus is key. Focus on what you can control right now, and utilize the help of other people, whether that is a partner, friends, a coach or advisor, to help move you forward and know when you can engage with other phases or other
Hmm.
areas of health or wealth. But yeah, focus is very challenging. On my side, on the wealth side, there's a fear. We have so much information thrown at us every day through every piece of technology,
Mm-hmm.
also usually through our community. And again, if somebody like my clients are engaged in conversations around finance and wealth, that comes up in conversations. So there's all kinds of information being thrown at us on what we could do with our money, and you get distracted. And I think it's your world too. All kinds of diets, fads. What gym do I go to? I was at that gym, then I did this gym, then I did that plan, then I did. But my friend over there is doing. And when we let ourselves get overwhelmed by all the possibilities and the options, some of which are good, some of which are terrible, but we don't have the time or bandwidth to go investigate all of them, we end up either doing nothing
Yeah.
or doing something terribly. What if instead we had the mindset of, I know what phase I'm in, I know where I'm at, and I'm going to align my habits and practices with my goals for my
Yeah.
life, not what they do for theirs, what I will do for me, my family, and my community. We focus on that and let everything else blow by us.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. Recognizing the season that you're in,
Yeah.
recognizing that this is the, and setting some time parameters too,
Yes.
for the next 2 quarters, I'm going to be focused on this. And you simplify, and I think a lot of times people think focus means I've just got to concentrate harder.
Totally.
And that is a piece of it.
Yeah.
But I think as well, it also means to simplify.
Yep.
It means to, and I think the process of focusing, because our brains, we think about it like, if you started thinking, if I said right now that my ear is itchy,
Yeah.
you're probably going to start to notice something on your body that's itchy.
Yeah. Right.
And you're
Right.
like, oh,
Yeah.
my foot's kind of, I can't scratch my foot. I'm on a
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah.
Sorry to make you
Yeah.
fidgety there.
Not my pleasure. Yeah. This is
Yeah.
great.
But the reality is that there's so many different stimuli that we don't focus on because our
Yeah.
brain just doesn't take it all in.
Yeah.
We're very good at fine tuning what is of most importance right now. So we
Yep.
do that naturally, biologically. But
Yep.
when it comes to emotionally, when it comes to all these different stimuli you're talking about,
Yep.
we're very much squirrel, in
Well,
terms
yeah.
of what's that thing? Wait, do I need to pay attention to that? And then we're
Yep.
so scattered. And so I think that idea of focus comes down to really pruning back and really simplifying on what is the main thing and make the main thing the
Yep.
main thing.
Yep. And your idea of winning small is crucial to this. The book is called Stolen Focus. You can look it up.
Mm,
Um, it talks a lot about the biggest companies in the world are generating revenue through your distraction. And so
mm,
the book, it's not anti-technology, anti-social media. It's pro quality of life. And I think your idea of and what you are all about of winning small fits perfectly into it. You don't need to go rearrange your entire life in order to gain back control and gain back focus. But there are easy ways where you can, it's the 1%. It's where you can change that small thing and that small thing and that small thing, stay in the phase, know where you are, know where you're going. But if you do it incrementally, then it's going to be sustainable. Whether you feel the pressure to do it all instantly, to kill yourself to make it happen, you're gonna flame out. This makes me so you're the first thing is discipline, then it's emotions, and then the next thing I wrote down is visualization and celebration.
yeah.
Dean, you said the word
Talk about
celebrate
those.
earlier. Yeah, so visualizing the path forward helps you know what phase you're in. So let's say somebody has I just use rental property because real estate is so deeply ingrained with wealth creation, whatever stage of life that you're in. Let's say you have a goal of, I want to own 5 rental properties. If you can visualize and create a path, but not just a path that's written down on a piece of paper, but it's literally something that is visual,
Mhm.
it'll help you stay on track and know what phase you're in. Maybe you are in a accumulation phase where you're saving the funds for that first property. Maybe you are in a learning phase to where you're interviewing investors for how they've done it. Maybe you're in a verifying phase
Mm,
where you're talking to bankers or lenders to see if you can qualify for getting money.
mhm.
Maybe you're in a testing phase where you're actually looking at properties and you're kind of putting your feet to the ground, right? But if you know and you visualize where you're at in the process on your plan, it'll help you stay there with confidence. You know that you're not
Yeah.
lost, behind, or missing anything. You know that no, I'm not supposed to be looking at properties right now. I'm supposed to be interviewing this real estate investor,
Yeah.
right? And I think again for you, I'm not supposed to be doing that half marathon. I'm supposed to be doing a 5K. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be I'm not supposed to put on a ton of muscle right now. That's not the phase I'm in. Like the phase I'm in is, and again, you know more about these phases than I do, but what phase am I in? So visualizing the whole plan gives you confidence to know where you're at. And then when you accomplish something in each phase, you have to celebrate. A good example of this, I work with a lot of individuals that are in sales, whether that is real estate, they run their own business, but their income can be infrequent
Mm-hmm.
and variable. One month they make nothing, the next month they make an insane amount of money. Part of our job is helping them understand how to build long-term wealth off of a variable income.
Mm-hmm.
Clients who have sort of an annual, and this is also true though for employees of larger companies, bonuses. If you get a bonus, we want you to celebrate that bonus, especially if it's performance oriented. We want you to go and say, you know what? Go to that nice restaurant and go and celebrate. A good example, again, go back to real estate. You set a goal of saving $50,000 for a house. When you hit that goal of $50,000, go celebrate. You have to. We can't put all this burden of an indefinite amount of time of saying no. No,
Mm-hmm.
you can't go do that. No, you can't go. No, 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 no. I think again, it's for you. It's no, you can't have that thing that you've always eaten or you like to drink. No, you can't go to that place because you have to work out. You can't say no forever. We have to say yes. And so when we visualize, we stay on track. We know what phase we're in and why. And then we celebrate, it gives us that endorphin kick. It gives us that, it makes us feel good about the progress we made, and it gives us hope for the future progress we want to make. So too often with people in finance, they look at discipline,
Mm-hmm.
and we intrinsically know that emotions and money don't mix.
Mm-hmm.
We get stuck there though. We say no, we can't ever go out to eat. Sorry, and that's just not sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
We want you to learn how to celebrate financial wins, whether they are, this is the first time we've ever had an emergency fund, right? This is incredible. Our family is secure, to all the way up to the financial win of I sold my business for more money than I ever thought possible. I don't care what end of the spectrum it is. People need to learn how to celebrate financial success. That's the only way to produce more financial success. And the exact same thing I think is true for your health. You need to learn how to celebrate the accomplishments of the phases that you are in.
Yeah, no, I think that's brilliant. I think that really ties into that idea of building momentum,
Yep.
right? So I think your point of visualization, I think that is how you build and maintain momentum. And you kind of broke it down into a couple components, which I think is great. One, creating the roadmap. It's interesting because when I first started coaching clients, that was an aspect of my coaching I didn't incorporate.
Yep.
And my retention was okay, but it wasn't great.
Yeah.
And now that I've built customized roadmaps for my clients, like,
Yep.
hey, and it's not like it takes me that much time because I know what they need and I know the pace that they probably need it in, and I know what the typical pattern is in terms of amount of time that each phase takes. And so I just create, hey, for your first 12 weeks, this is where we're going to be focusing in, boom, boom, boom. If you continue on your second 12 weeks, here's what we're focusing on. Now, I know financially, we probably zoomed out a little bit more than that.
Yep.
But, for the first 12 months, we're going to be focusing here. The next 12 months, we're going to be focusing here. And I think just creating that tool, just creating that roadmap alone is huge.
Yep.
And then, you mentioned as well, not only do we create the roadmap, but then we make sure that we go back to those earlier steps. So in
Yeah.
every phase, you kind of have to go back and you have to kind of rewire a little bit and
Yeah.
reacclimate to, oh, this is a
Yeah.
new phase. It means I've got to readjust. What does discipline look like in this phase? What does, having emotions, ruled out a little bit in this phase? What does focus look like in this phase? And what
Yep.
does what does the next level of mentorship or guidance look like here? So there's not just one, you know, one level to all of this. As you move
Oh,
along, you actually incorporate more and more, not only skills, but then
yeah.
you have to level up,
Yeah.
right?
And we see this a lot with families who make jumps financially, whether it's in their annual income or their net worth. It kind of goes back to the idea of being distracted. You go from making X amount of money to 3X amount of money for whatever reason. When you're at the higher income level, there are more opportunities available to you. But more opportunities equals more distraction, which equals less quality.
Mm.
And so as like listeners of this podcast, if you are in that stage where you change jobs or you now have 2 incomes instead of 1 or whatever happened, and you find yourself with more than you've ever had, now is the time to be wary of distraction, because now you have opportunities you didn't have before, which directly increases FOMO, fear of missing out on those opportunities. And you're going to waste some time, waste a lot of money, and be frustrated in the process. So if you have reached those levels, the word that made me think was just reset. You need to reset. You need to reset and say, I haven't been here before. I'm going to swallow my pride. I'm going to continue to be humble and ask somebody who has been here for a while, what should I do if I were them? How do they act? How do they think? What are opportunities that are pure distractions? What are opportunities that I could look at? But as we level up, again, whether it is income, net worth, even environment, right? If you have recently moved and you went from one neighborhood or part of town or city to another, there are new things that can either support you or distract you.
No, yeah, that's great. So as we wrap up, I thought we would do and just kind of finish with a quick lightning round. I didn't tell you about this, so spring it on you.
Yeah, love it.
So we'll kind of go back and forth, but either share a resource, a book, a quote, an article, something that you think the listeners might get some value out of, and it could be pretty wide ranging, but some things that have influenced you, shaped you, or in the last few months have given you a new sense of direction. You already mentioned the one. Can you repeat that one?
Yeah, so it's called Stolen Focus by... Let me look it up here.
And I'll put this in the show notes as well, so anything that we go over.
Stolen Focus by Johan Hari, Hari. This is his last name. If you are an entrepreneur, a business owner, The E-Myth is a crucial book.
It's on my list.
Yeah, it's amazing. I reference it as a resource for a lot of my clients who are business owners or who want to be business owners. One that maybe isn't directly tied, well, I know it's not directly tied with money, is Start With Why by Simon Sinek. It's a book that would change your mindset, which is the most important thing that you can change.
Is that the one that he talks about, the infinite games? No,
it's a different one. But Start With Why, he talks about people buy why you do, not what you do. So you can view that book from two approaches. Sometimes it is, if you're going to create a business, how do you create a business that has a purpose, of a why that gets people behind it? But I like to think about it from my own life. Like, why do I do what I do? Because it's what you talk about being passionate, right? Like, if I try to change a behavior, but I don't have a passion, a vision for why I'm implementing that behavior, I won't do it.
Right.
So I'd say Start With Why. So those are 3 books that have radically changed either my view on money specifically, but also on mindset and lifestyle to help make better. This is a phrase that I used for my vision planning for 2022. We do annual growths and goals as a family, and I do it personally.
Yeah.
And then you usually have one wrap-up phrase that I'll happily let everybody else borrow. And you might borrow it because it fits in very well with your culture, is make better small decisions. So make better small decisions. There are plenty of moments in life where we are forced to make large ones. Will I take that job? Will we have that kid? Will we buy that house? but those are few and far between, monumentally instrumental in our life. But in between those, we have to make better small decisions. Will I
Yeah,
buy the $100 one or the $50 one? Will I eat that or this? Will I spend my time with that person or this person? Making better small decisions is the key to wealth and health. The big ones are pivotal, but if you don't make small decisions, you'll pivot on that big decision and then you'll fall off the path every single time.
absolutely. Dude, I appreciate you so much. Thanks for making time today. How can listeners follow along with your life journey, get some more wisdom from you? What would be the next steps if they wanted to chat with you or just see what you got going on?
The best way and the easiest way is to Google my name with Thrivent behind it. That is THRIVENT. I'll come up on Google. You can access my information through our website and reach out via email through our website, and we can set up a conversation to talk more.
Yeah, fantastic. Dude, thanks so much for this. Appreciate you sharing. And I know listeners are getting a lot of value for this. So
I appreciate it, Brian.
appreciate
Appreciate
you
you
coming
and all
on.
of
And
you do too.
yeah, dude, for sure. Well, you guys go out and crush your Tuesday. All right. We'll see you.